My heartfelt greetings to the reverend parents, intellectuals, respected dignitaries, Honorable Director Sri Raman Raja Khanna Sir and Director P.K. Gulati Sir, respected Principal Ms. Vibha Khanna Ma'am, Honorable Academic Director Ms. Renu Srivastav Ma'am, our Headmistress and all the respected coordinators. I, Rashi, along with my friend Vishnu, wish to navigate you through the opening of one of the very important event, which is important for those who lived, those who are living, and those who will live in future. Basis of our existence, where nature dwells, external condition, where life flourish.
Once in a golden hour, I cast to earn a seed. Up there came a flower. The people set a weed. Sowed it far and wide, by every town and tower, till all the people cried, "Splendid is the flower." How beautifully has Alfred Tennyson presented the beauty of nature spreading through a little seed. So are the efforts that have been put forth for a cause to bring in awareness and to bring in some change. So offerings to Almighty and offering to our nature are deeply rooted in. Let us take the blessings of Supreme before moving forward.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Let's welcome the person who doesn't require any introduction and known for her knowledge, wisdom, love in nature, and many more things. That is our Honorable Academic Director, Ms. Renu Srivastav Ma'am.
Honorable dignitaries, learned teachers, respected parents, and my dear children, a very warm morning. Today, on the occasion of this school exhibition Creation 2021, I want to wish all the best to all the participants. Motive behind this school exhibition is to make our children learn. If we will be able to conserve nature, then only we will be able to save human race. As our Vedic culture always taught us to worship nature. Isha Upanishad says, Ishavasya sarvam yat kinch jagatam jagat ten yakten munjitha ma gritha kasya swadhamam. God pervades the entire universe. Enjoy all the nature and gifts from the God, but with the spirit of renunciation. Do not be attached to them. Do not covet wealth of others, control greed. And that is the message we want to give to our young minds. If you will be using natural resources for our need, certainly we will be able to survive on this planet. But if we'll be consuming all the resources for our greed, that greed will destroy the human race. So better we should understand that we should be nature friendly. Children, they should learn that how to conserve nature. So that was the motive behind the exhibition. I'm sure that after this exhibition, whatever they have researched, they will be applying those things in the real life also, and we will be able to save our earth, our nation, and our universe. Thank you so much.
Worship is not an external activity, it's a practice from deep inside our heart and soul. Similarly, environment is inside us, not outside. The trees are the lungs, the rivers are the bloodstream of our body. We all are interconnected, and remember, what you do to the environment, ultimately you are doing it to yourself. For decades, environment has been praised and celebrated, and one of the most important and exciting form of celebration is dance. So let us enjoy a dance performance by the students of St. Teresa School. concern today's youth is the views about the surrounding we live in, our environment.
एक बात हमें रखनी होगी स्मरण, साथ मिलकर ही बचा सकते हैं हम अपना पर्यावरण। नमस्कार, मैं शुभ श्रीवास्तव कक्षा 10वीं B3 का छात्र हूं और आप लोग का पर्यावरण की इस प्रदर्शनी में स्वागत करता हूं। आप लोगों ने ये सुना ही होगा कि भारत अपनी संस्कृति के लिए दुनिया भर में मशहूर है। प्राचीन भारत में पर्यावरण को बहुत महत्व दिया गया है। इतने बड़े देश में सांस्कृतिक विविधता होने के बावजूद भी हम सब एक हैं। पुराने समय में चाहे लोग धर्म, भाषा, वेशभूषा के आधार पर ही क्यों ना बट गए थे, परंतु एक ऐसा आधार हमेशा रहा जिसे विश्व की सभी संस्कृतियों का केंद्र माना जाना चाहिए। वह है हम सब के अंदर भरी पर्यावरण के प्रति प्रेम भावना। बड़े बड़े कवियों के द्वारा और यहाँ तक कि धार्मिक ग्रंथों में भी लोगों को पर्यावरण के प्रति जागरूक करने की कोशिशें की गई हैं। चाहे लोग अल्लाह को माने या राम नाम जपे, पर्यावरण के प्रति जागरूकता और सचेतता सबके संस्कार में दौड़ती है। लोग पर्यावरण से इस हद तक जुड़े थे कि नदियों, पेड़ों, वायु और यहाँ तक कि सूर्य और चांद को भी ईश्वर का दर्जा प्रदान कर उनकी पूजा की जाती थी। मौसमी विविधता होने के कारण भारत में हर घड़ी विभिन्न त्योहारों की झड़ी लगी रहती है। कृषि प्रधान देश होने के कारण भारत के त्योहार भी लोगों के पर्यावरण से जुड़े होने का प्रतीक है। होली जैसा लोकप्रिय त्योहार भी प्रकृति के रंग सौंदर्य से प्रेरित है। तीज, ईद से लेकर बैसाखी तक और बिहू से लेकर क्रिसमस के क्रिसमस ट्री तक सब में लोगों का पर्यावरण से जुड़ाव साफ दिखाई देता है। यहाँ तक कि बहुत से लोग विभिन्न पर्वों पर नदियों में स्नान करना और अन्न का दान करना पवित्र मानते हैं, परंतु आजकल के लोग अपनी पुरानी परंपराओं को भुलाकर एक अलग ही रास्ते पर चल पड़े हैं। वे प्रकृति के साथ अपने इस ऐतिहासिक और सांस्कृतिक जुड़ाव को शायद से नेपथ्य में ढकेल चुके हैं। तभी ईश्वर तुल्य वृक्षों की अंधाधुंध कटाई उन्हें शायद से इतना परेशान नहीं करती, जबकि वृक्ष हमें आज भी जीवन की तरफ वापस ले चलने में सक्षम हैं। वो भी एक ऐसे समय में जब हवा और पानी डिब्बों में बंद बिकने लगे हैं। हमें भविष्य की आवश्यकताओं को समझते हुए आज प्रकृति के सभी घटकों के समन्वय और सहजीवन को संरक्षित करने हेतु सबको जागरूक करने की आवश्यकता है। इसलिए चलो संकल्प करें, पेड़ों को बचाना है, जल, वायु और जमीन को साफ रख पर्यावरण सबके जीने के काबिल बनाना है। इसी लक्ष्य और कामना के साथ आज हम अपनी इस प्रदर्शनी का शुभारंभ करते हैं।
Let's take the opportunity to witness the words of wisdom from our Honorable Director, Shri Vijay Kumar Gulati sir.
Good morning, my dear students. You will be happy to know that school is organizing School Exhibition Creation 2021. Students from class 1st to class 12th are participating in this exhibition. For the all-round development of personality of any students, such type of activities, exhibitions, co-curricular activities plays an important role. I would like to suggest to all my teachers that we should encourage maximum students to take part in such type of activities. The outcome of this exhibition will be very encouraging, as my students and my teachers have put a lot of efforts in these events. Wish you all the best. I declare School Exhibition Creation 2021 open. Thank you very much.
Dear netizens, as we have stepped into the virtual tour to the basis of living beings' existence, our environment, I, Samriddhi Sharma of class 10, would now like to loop all beautiful flowers into a single garland and steer you through the first section of environment.
Hello to everyone present here and watching this. This is me, Vishesh Varshney of class 12th A2 with my co-host Rashi from class 10, and I am here to present exhibition session 2021 to 22 from the Department of Physics. We have working models, PowerPoint presentations and documentaries that will surely excite you. So without any further ado, let's get started. So, firstly we have Punnavi and Mahika who will be presenting on the topic global warming and climate change. Then we have Pavni who will be presenting on the topic how quantum physics can help us fight climate change. Hope you'll enjoy.
Let's get started. So we'll begin with introducing our topics to you all. We'll tell you something which you can do at your level to contribute to this. Then we'll analyze our approach in short.
The next part would include experimental and theoretical data related to our study and project, and then a final word about it all.
So, we have known about global warming since we were young. It is referred to human-introduced warming of the Earth's system, whereas climate change can refer to natural as well as anthropogenic change. The two terms are often used interchangeably. Here are some images telling the same through graphs and flowcharts.
We all have a potential to provide a helping hand at reducing and preventing global warming. Let's now know some ways by which we all can contribute to this cause without a second thought. The foremost thing which we all can do is reducing the usage of air conditioners and other CFC using appliances. Second, we can switch to CNG vehicles or electric cars rather than the petrol and diesel vehicles. The third thing is promoting growth of plants in the balconies and terraces. We can also promote the use of hydroponics for crop growth, that is, growing crops in water rather than soil. The last thing is to stop yourself and others from wasting electricity, water, etc.
Now that we know our potential to help, let's look into what we are doing to reduce global warming.
We will start with going to the roots of global warming, that is, greenhouse gases. Reduction in greenhouse gases will help us prevent climate change and, as a result, make the Earth a happy and healthy planet once again.
Doesn't it sound cool? So now we'll explain our research idea in brief.
First of all, we will capture air and filter out carbon dioxide which is in excess. The next thing to do is electrolyzing carbon dioxide into carbon monoxide and oxygen by the help of a thermochemical step that involves using a catalyst based on copper oxide nanowires that are modified with tin oxide. Now, we have oxygen and carbon monoxide in our electrolysis chamber.
Carbon monoxide is a very harmful and dangerous gas. It has choked many down to death. So it is very necessary for us to channelize it into something useful. Now that we have both carbon monoxide and oxygen into their respective electrodes, it becomes easier for us to separate them into their chambers. From then on, the chamber of carbon monoxide is sent into several industries due to its brilliant reducing properties. The carbon monoxide is also used in beverages and foods like jam and cola to acidify them, and also it is used in infrared lasers.
We talked of using up carbon monoxide, but what about the oxygen? Well, in the past few months, all we were hearing of was a lack of oxygen for the COVID-19 affected patients. So, we can transport the oxygen to the industries to convert it into breathable oxygen and use it for the purpose of oxygen cylinders as in the recent needs.
My topic is how can quantum physics help us to fight climate change? Quantum physics is a fundamental theory of physics that provides a description of physical properties of nature at the scale of atomic and subatomic particles like electrons, protons, and neutrons. Quantum physics states that every particle behaves like a wave and a particle at the same time. But how greenhouse effect work at quantum level? Well, this is the nature's indigenous way to keep our planet warm, and the first person who figured out how this worked was Joseph Fourier in the 1820s. He conjectured that the atmosphere has gases which can trap heat and keep us warm. This is known as the greenhouse effect today. An atmosphere forms a really thin layer between the Earth and outer space. But this thin layer is warming our planet by 40 degrees Celsius. Though this conjecture was not believed to sound realistic by Joseph Fourier himself. 100 years later, after experimenting on this theory, the theory was proved. The experiment was as follows. If you shine light on a metal plate, the energy in the light goes into electrons in the plate. Thus, electrons can absorb or take up the energy and escape the plate if the plate is part of a circuit. Then these free-flowing electrons complete the circuit and you get a current. It sounds reasonable, but this is not complete. The electrons don't always absorb light energy coming in. For certain energies and certain frequencies of light below a certain level, there is no current at all. Well, the key to understand this is that incoming energy is not continuously flowing in it. It is actually coming in packages of energy, that is quantized light that today call photons. If a certain photon has enough energy for the electron to escape, they absorb the light. This idea of quantized light or photons was literally proposed by the scientist Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein received Nobel Prize for this effect, that is, photoelectric effect. This idea was the beginning of quantum physics. Later we came to know that this idea of quantized energy is also there in matter. Question arises here that why do we need quantum technology to understand climate change? Matter interferometer is a quantum device in space will be important due to its sensitivity or how well a device can measure tiny change. CAL isn't the only project aiming to harness quantum technology in space. The Chinese Quantum Experiments at Space Scale QUEST project and Germany's Matter Wave Interferometry in Microgravity MAIUS missions are all attempting to bring interferometry, that is measuring and analyzing projects, to space. Through the Quantum Technology Flagship, QT Flagship, that is the Commission, has identified application areas of one of them, that is quantum metrology and sensing, Earth sensing and observation EO. Gravity field mapping from space provide crucial information for the understanding climate change, hydro and biosphere evolution, and tectonics and earthquake prediction. The recent advent of macroscopic quantum matter, such as Bose-Einstein condensates and the associated Nobel Prize-winning protocols, have led to making of quantum sensors based on an atom interferometer. Space-based quantum sensors will enable better monitoring of the Earth's resources and improve the predictions of earthquakes and the adverse effects of climate change like droughts and floods. Why quantum physics and quantum technologies are the best way to fight climate change? Sensitive measurements are important because they are the measurements of the way that we are able to make sense of the physical world. As quantum means a quantity of energy, though the quantum tells about the properties of nature at atomic and subatomic level, that will lead to study of minor changes, both before and after the climate change in the Earth's atmosphere. New quantum technology will improve our understanding on climate change and will help us to fight climate change. So let's protect nature with science.
Wow, how astonishing these presentations were. Did you all like it? Actually, I loved it. So I think you are now charged up and want to see more such presentations. So here we have a lot of presentations, a bunch of presentations. So the next we have parts presentation, that is on energy to run automobiles, which is being followed by Samriddhi's Tesla coil. Then the next we have Vishnu's ocean power plant. So let's see.
As you all know, that invention of automobiles has revolutionized human life. It has helped humans to perform various activities like traveling, transport of goods over long distances, international travel, farming, and many more. According to researchers, around 1.4 billion vehicles are in use in the world. But have you wondered that such a valuable invention can become a danger for human life as well as for our nature? But how? The most common and major reason for this is the emission of harmful gases from petrol and diesel vehicles. Almost 80% vehicles use petrol or diesel for their working. Burning of these fuels emits harmful fumes like carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, hydrocarbons, and a small amount of sulfur dioxide. How these gases affect human life and nature? In humans, it leads to difficulty in breathing, vision loss, severe headaches, etc. And it affects the environment as emission of these gases lead to acid rain and global warming, the major problem in trend. Looking all these, Tesla Motors launched its first completely electric car. Now what is an electric car or electronic vehicle? EVs or electronic vehicles are vehicles either partially or fully powered on electric motor. But how this electric vehicle is different from gasoline vehicle? The reason which makes electric vehicle different from gasoline vehicle is that electric vehicle uses lithium-ion battery which requires electricity to run, whereas gasoline vehicles uses internal combustion engine which requires petrol or diesel to run. How electric vehicle can contribute to save environment? First, electricity is a renewable resource whereas gasoline is not. Second, they are quieter than gasoline vehicles, which means less noise pollution. Third, use of fuel would be lessened, therefore emission of harmful gases would also be lessened. Fourth, in fact, use of electric cars worldwide would lead to decrease in global warming to high extent. The technology used can make Mother Earth feel proud of us, but its wrong use can be a disaster for us.
Can you line this rod without connecting it with electric circuit? Well, I can do this. I can light this rod holding in my hands. So yes, let's have a look. Abracadabra, gilly gilly choo. Was it a magic? All magic vanishes when science comes into the picture. I was able to do so because of Tesla coil, invented by the legendary scientist Nikola Tesla in 1891. This is a simple model of Tesla coil. It consists of a hollow metallic dome, secondary coil made by winding thin insulated copper wire on a PVC pipe, primary coil. It consists of 2N triple tube transistor, a 20,000 ohm resistance, switch, 9-volt battery and battery connector and connecting wires. Earlier, Tesla circuits were used for radio transmitters for wireless telegraphy and in medical equipments such as electrotherapy and violet rays devices. And nowadays, it is used for entertainment purposes and educational displays. It is a radio frequency oscillator that drives an air-core double-tuned resonant transformer that produces high voltages at low currents. Resonant transformer is a specialized transformer that is used in Tesla coil and it functions differently from an ordinary transformer that are used in AC power circuits. Operation cycle of Tesla coil. The circuit operates in a rapid and repeating cycle in which the supply transformer charges the primary capacitor up, which then discharges in a spark through the spark gap, creating a brief pulse of oscillating current in the primary circuit which excites a high oscillating voltage across the secondary circuit. Most of the Tesla coil designs have smooth spherical or toroidal shaped metal electrode on the high voltage terminal. The electrode serves as the one plate of the capacitor and the earth serves as the another plate of the capacitor, forming the tuned circuit with the secondary winding.
What is ocean power plant? It is a type of renewable source of energy in which the electricity is generated from high currents and low currents. It is a new emerging technology. Scientists say that it is going to be much more safer for the environment. It is now installed in countries like Portugal, Denmark, some parts of Israel, and Hawaiian Islands. Now let's look at the demonstration of the model.
When the waves are produced, waves have high tides and low tides, right? When the waves are produced, these floaters also move. Because of the up and down of the waves, these floaters also move. So this wave is basically known as mechanical energy, because this mechanical energy transfers to the piston and from a hydraulic fluid tank. Hydraulic fluid is being passed through the piston. So the piston compresses the hydraulic fluid and it is being stored in the accumulator, right? After that accumulator, it has intense pressure because of compression. It turns the hydraulic motor and next it turns the electrical generator. So this is the system of ocean power plant, right, as you can see. So first one is the floater. Floater means it moves due to the motion of waves, right? It moves due to the motion of waves. It moves due to the kinetic energy and it is controlled by smart monitoring system. This is the features of this floater, right? And next is the piston. Piston, you know that over here there is a hammer like thing that moves up and down, right? So what happens is from this hydraulic fluid tank, the hydraulic fluid passes through this pipe and it enters the piston, and because of the intense up and down, this fluid is being compressed. So it is named it as compressed hydraulic fluid. So this hydraulic fluid needs to be stored anywhere, right? So this has been stored in the accumulator. So because of the compression, it has intense pressure, right? So because of this pressure, this pressure turns up the hydraulic motor. So what this hydraulic motor does, it generates hydraulic pressure again, and because of this intense hydraulic pressure, it again turns up the motor, it again turns up the generator, and this generator converts the wave energy, the mechanical energy, into electrical energy or current.
So let's talk about the pros and cons of ocean power plant. First of all, the pros: zero emissions. No dangerous gases is being released to the air. This is completely safe for the environment. Second one is renewable source of energy. It can be renewed again and again, like solar energy and wind energy. Third one is enormous potential to produce energy. It can produce 24/7 unlimited green energy. Fourth one is reliable source of energy. As we know that wind speed cannot be constant, right? It varies, it comes up, it comes down. But there is a particular wind speed by which the windmill can produce electricity. So, like this, we come to know that waves are always present and they can produce unlimited green energy 24/7. So it's a reliable source of energy. Now let's move to the cons. First, it's highly expensive. As we know, this is a new emerging technology. So when a new emerging technology is launched in the market, it becomes expensive, but later on it becomes less expensive because of some factors like demand, popularity, etc. Second one is hard to scale. Till now, there is no utility to install ocean power plants in big countries. There are big populated countries like India, China. Because if you talk about in the context of India need a high amount of electricity for consumption. So till now, ocean power plants are not ready for that job to be taken. So this is the pros and cons of ocean power plants.
Wow, what informational and tremendous presentations they were. Now we have Shubh who will be presenting on the topic irrigation by solar panels. Aditya, Dwij, Love and Vanshika who will be presenting on the topic renewable energy. And Suhani who will be presenting on the topic making a smart city. Hope you will learn and enjoy.
And I am here to present my working model on which is known as solar irrigation system. So I have placed the chart also on the same. So here I have used 12 volts solar panel, a 9 volt mini DC motor which is placed inside, cardboard and a plastic container which is placed inside, and a pump and a switch. So now let's see how it works and what is the description of it. So now let's talk about on which principle this solar irrigation system works. When the switch is turned on, the solar panel takes the solar energy and converts it into the electricity, which is received by the pump, which is placed inside the ground, and it pumps the water from the source, and it flows through the pump and goes into the tank, and then the tank proceeds the water into the field, and hence the irrigation takes place. Now I will give the live demonstration of this process. So I'll switch it on, and you can see the pipe. Through the pipe the water goes through the tank, and from this pipe it will flow into the field like this. So this is the live demonstration. So now let's talk about the advantages of solar irrigation system. First, as it saves electricity, and this electricity can be used for any other procedure. Second, as it is free of cost, so no extra cost is needed after the setting up of it. Third, as it is a renewable form of energy, there is no any particular limit set up for the use of it. And fourth, as it is pollution free and does not emit any greenhouse gases, so we can use it like.
So in our model there are three types of renewable source of energy. First is solar, second soil, third wind, and etc. So basically in solar energy it works like this. When we apply a high rate of beam, the photovoltaic cells present inside the solar panel converts the high rate of beam into electricity, and this passes through wires and charges the bulb. Second is the solar energy. So basically we uses a process known as electrolysis to charge one LED bulb. Here the screw is acting as an anode while the copper wire is acting as a cathode. So basically because of their the atomic difference, it creates an energy of almost 1 volt inside 1 cup. And when this 10 cup merges, they form an electricity of 10 volt, which is enough to light a LED bulb. And you can see that when we put out this one cathode and the anode, the bulb stops glowing. But when we put it again, the bulb starts glowing. Third is the wind energy. So basically, when the propeller or the fan starts moving, it creates the energy inside the DC motor. And the energy inside the DC motor is then passed through wires towards the bulb, and the bulb will start glowing. So when we apply electricity to move only the propeller generates electricity inside the DC, and then it passes towards the bulb.
As for the second working model, we have solar panels which harvest solar energy and convert it into electricity, which power the houses and buildings in this working model. If we talk about its function, that how a solar panel harvests solar energy, first we need to know what is a solar cell. A solar cell is made up of silicon, which is the second most abundant element in the world. In the process of making a solar cell, silicon is sandwiched between two conductive layers. It uses two types of different silicon, one N-type silicon and the second P-type silicon. N-type silicon is having an extra electron, whereas P-type silicon is having an extra pocket called hole. Place at which these both silicon meet, that is called p-n junction, creating a negative and positive side. Photons, which are tiny particles present in a light, strike silicon. It knocks out an electron since it was been fixed earlier. Since the moving electron cannot pass the p-n junction because of the electric field, it will go through the conductive layer through which it is able to light a bulb or anything. Later, electron will going to move back to the p side conductive layer where an extra pocket will going to consume or absorb it. In a solar panel, there are a number of solar cells which perform this function, and through this process we get our electricity to light up houses or buildings. Since the solar energy is abundant in nature, developing countries can make a good use of the solar energy as it can replace the fossil fuels and silicon, which is the second most abundant element in the world. It's easy to find. In India, Rajasthan, Chennai, Kerala have constructed solar plants.
Let's start. As we can see that how hydroelectric energy, solar energy and wind energy is being used to produce electricity, which is enough to fulfill the demands of industries.
I'm literally stunned to see such presentation and models. Are you all excited to see more? I think you would be, because you would have been gaining a lot of knowledgeable things, and gaining knowledge is one of the best activity you can do. So yes, now we have the presentation from Lakshya, that is on energy conserving. You'll get to know how to conserve energy. Then we have next Siddharth, that he will present solar plastic bottle lamp. Next we have mine and my friend Ria's presentation. There you will see eco-friendly gadgets. Isn't that so amazing? Let's see and find it out.
In 1992, the US Environmental Protection Agency EPA introduced a new program called Energy Star to show consumers how much energy the products they buy actually use. Since the inception, 12,000 electronics and appliance manufacturers have voluntarily complied with increasing strict Energy Star standards. As a result, more than 40,000 individual products boast the highly recognizable Energy Star level. Energy conserving electronics are not only better for our wallets but better for the environment. More than half the electricity in the United States comes from coal burning power plants. Even a brand new coal burning power plant sends out 6 million tons of carbon dioxide each year, 1200 tons of sulfur dioxide, 600 tons of nitrogen oxide. These chemicals not only deplete the ozone layer but contribute to acid rain and respiratory illness in children and the elderly. In 2007 alone, Americans using Energy Star products helped prevent 40 million metric tons of greenhouse gas from entering the atmosphere. That's the equivalent of taking 27 million cars off the road for an entire year. The EPA also estimates that in 2007, Americans using Energy Star products saved $16 billion on the electrical bills.
What is a solar bottle? A solar bottle bulb, an innovation introduced as a cheap alternative to other light sources. It is made out of a waste plastic bottle, purified water and bleach water to prevent algae from forming. So, how does it help the environment? Solar bottle bulbs does not pollute environment and also saves electricity and are easily accessible and affordable. So, how how they can be used. It will be very helpful for the people living in the areas where there are electricity problems, and we can use it as an alternative to light bulbs. And it will also not waste electricity and will be affordable.
Now let's see how solar bottle bulb works.
Here, we will consider this box as a room, flashlight as sunlight, so when light will reflect at the water, then it will refract the light to illuminate larger areas in the room, as we can see here.
Why eco-friendly gadgets are used? Being eco-friendly or environmentally friendly is becoming more and more important. Eco-friendly means not creating harm for environment. Eco-friendly products promote green living that help to conserve energy and also prevent air, water and noise pollution. I think that you would be very excited and curious to see those gadgets. So let's begin with the first one. That is Koda dishwasher. It is created by Yanko Designs. Look like a little spaceship, but it actually cleans the dirty dishes by steaming them in a pre-washing cycle and keeping the water to reuse it in the later phases. Isn't it so amazing? Now let's see the another one. Cloth napkins. Millions of napkins and diapers are disposed every day in the world after having been used just once. The trick here is to use reusable products, often made of bamboo or clothes. They are easily washed and, as a bonus, will keep your baby away from the harmful chemicals used in making those diapers. Now the next is the amazing rechargeable batteries. As batteries remain complicated to recycle and contain a significant number of dangerous metals such as lead, prefer the use of rechargeable batteries. The latter will cost a bit more when you get them, but in the long run, you will protect the environment while saving some cash. LED bulbs. It can save significant amount of energy and carbon emission over incandescent and fluorescent lamps. Department of Energy. LEDs offer the potential for cutting general lighting energy use nearly in half by 2030. Cloth or cotton shopping bags. Well, when it comes to shopping bags, you only have to stop using one-time plastic bags. Carry with you a cloth or cotton mesh bag to avoid any trouble. Actually, some supermarkets and shops have already made a move towards shopping to give plastic bags away or are charging them to deter people from using too many of them. Now here we go with reusable water bottle. Using eco-friendly water bottle is very easy, as all you have to do is to use a water bottle that you can reuse instead of throwing it away once it is empty. Even if it is recyclable, think about using a bottle made up of glass, stainless steel or aluminium. Solar powered outdoor speakers. The brand Sunflower designed outdoor speakers that work with solar energy, allowing you to save some electricity. This speaker is also equipped with a technology which makes it detect the right angle to play the music towards right where you are standing. Solar phone charger. With the solar phone charger, you will be done with those desperate runs for a plug with electricity while saving energy. Just put your charger in the sun and you will be set. Yay! Now here we go with a shower timer. This simple device will help you monitor the amount of time you spend under the shower and, more importantly, the amount of time you spent in the water running. Seeing it right before your eyes will encourage you to be quicker and will save water and heating energy.
Wow, those were some informational and tremendous presentations in working models. Now we have Bhavya who will be presenting on the topic carbon footprint, Antragya who will be presenting on the topic pollution catcher, and Bhavya who will be presenting on the topic smoke absorber. Hope you learned and enjoy.
Carbon dioxide gets released into the atmosphere after everyday human processes like driving a vehicle, agriculture industry, and many more. Carbon footprints is the total amount of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases such as methane, nitrous oxide, or chlorofluorocarbons that are generated by the actions of a person or other entity. How do carbon emissions affect the environment? More and more carbon emissions are altering the climate of the earth and harming our environment, as carbon footprints are the main reason for global warming. Due to the carbon footprints, the average global temperature is increasing and changing our climate. This is harmful for plants, animals, and even humans to survive. Some contributors to carbon footprints. Transportation is causing about 28% of total carbon footprints, which is a huge percentage. Electricity production makes about 27% of the total carbon footprints. Industries also uses fuels which releases a high amount of greenhouse gases. Commercial and residents are also using products which releases greenhouse gases, and the method of disposing waste is also a factor of carbon footprints. These are some of the countries with highest carbon emission. India is the third largest carbon emitter. India accounts for 2.46 billion metric tons of carbon, which is 6.8% of the total global emission. These are some of the highest carbon emission cities. There are online calculators by which we can calculate our individual carbon footprints. Although they are not perfect, but there is a good way to calculate that how much CO2 you are releasing. Ways to reduce carbon footprints. Learn the 5 R's. Refuse, reduce, reuse, rot, and recycle. Choosing renewable energies or appliances by which you can save energy is a great method. Invest in renewable energies. Minimizing the fuel use by using public transport, carpooling, or by using environment-friendly vehicles. You can also buy carbon credits. This money is used in projects like planting trees. If we purchase enough to offset their carbon footprints, then they become neutral. To understand that at an individual level we can do significant changes in the society. As we can see, the carbon dioxide is harmful, so we can use the methods to reduce it.
What is a pollution catcher? Air pollution is the biggest problem we are facing in our day-to-day life that we end up breathing in. But to deal with it, there is a simple yet effective device which is known as pollution catcher. It traps the air pollution in an effective way. As the air passes through the exhaust fan, the transparent plastic sheet in which petroleum jelly is applied traps the pollutants. I will be demonstrating this pollution catcher. So, first I will be sprinkling this coriander powder on it, considering this as a particulate matter and this exhaust fan as a human lung. That's it. Let's see how it has trapped all them. You can see that though the particulate matter is not visible with our naked eye, but I have demonstrated this in front of you by help of coriander powder. Thank you. How a pollution catcher serves our environment. A pollution catcher helps us to clean the environment in an eco-friendly way. You will be discovering that tiny particles or pollutants piling up on the transparent plastic sheet. These tiny particles enter through our nose and cause harmful chronic disease like cancer. Therefore, it's easy to make and can be prepared at home with less requirements. A research shows that 120,000 people dies every year due to pollution, and vast countries like India have a major problem of pollution, so it's a very useful device.
How to save the environment? Smoke absorber. What is a smoke absorber? This is a device that is used to filter the interior air to keep the environment clean by removing bacterial fumes, combustion products, bad steam and odor, heat and grease. Now, how it benefits the environment? It benefits the environment in many ways. First, it provides us a fresh air by filtering out the harmful air, prevent us from facing respiratory problems. Second, it traps the small particles in the air. And third, helps in proper ventilation. Let me show you how is it made of. So it contains two DC motors connected with two fans, one in the opposite direction so that it can take air from this side, and another in this direction to the pipe so that it can pass the air to the pipe, and they are connected to a powerful battery.
Now let's see how it works. So here I've taken a dhoop batti so that it can create fumes. So now I will start the model.
As we saw that how the smoke was collected, now the collected smoke can be used in making artificial diamonds. There is a futuristic tar that sucks up to 30,000 cubic meters of polluted air per hour, turns it into clean air, and then passes out the purified air. Now they noticed that the polluted air which they gathered inside the tar, most of it contained carbon, and by compressing carbon we get diamonds. So they used that in purified air to make artificial diamonds.
How startling these models and presentations are. I'm literally enjoying it a lot. Are you all enjoying it? I just hope that you are. Now, the next presentation we have of Arun was showing water level indicator, which is being followed by artificial glaciers by Krish. Then we have Ronak and Sarthak who presents how to remove space debris.
A water level indicator is a system that relays the information back to the control panel to indicate whether a body of water has a high or low water level. Some water level indicators use a combination of probe sensors or float switches to sense water levels. According to Electronics Hub, the water level indicator employs a simple mechanism to detect and indicate water level in an overhead tank or any other water container. Importance of a water level indicator. Drinking water crisis in Asia is reaching alarming proportions. It might very soon attain the nature of a global crisis. Hence, it is of utmost importance to preserve water for human beings. In many houses, there is unnecessary wastage of water due to overflow in overhead tanks. Automatic water level indicator and controller can provide a solution to this problem. The operation of water level controller works upon the fact that water conducts electricity due to the presence of minerals within it. So water can be used to open or close a circuit. As the water level rises or falls, different circuits in the controller send different signals. These signals are used to switch on or off the switch or the motor pump as per our requirements. The total amount of water available on Earth has been estimated at 1.4 billion cubic kilometers, enough to cover the planet with a layer of about 3 kilometers. About 95% of Earth's water is in the oceans, which is unfit for human consumption. About 4% is locked in the polar ice caps, and the rest 1% constitutes all fresh water found in rivers, streams, and lakes, which is suitable for our consumption. A study estimated that a person in India consumes on average 140 liters of water a day. This consumption would rise by 40% by the year 2025. This signifies the need to preserve our freshwater resources. Purpose of water level indicator. The purpose of a water level indicator is to gauge and manage water levels in a water tank. The control panel can also be programmed to automatically turn on a water pump once level gets too low and refill the water back to the adequate level.
Sensor used in a water level indicator. The best sensor to use in a water level indicator is a stainless steel probe sensor. Stainless steel sensors prevent rusting, fouling, deteriorating due to poor water quality. For example, we only use stainless steel sensors in all of our water level indicators.
Uses of water level indicators. Water level indicators are used in hotels, commercial complexes, pools, home apartments, factories, and places where cooling towers are used. We should all equip our tanks in our houses with water level indicators to prevent tank overflows as shown in the left image.
I will be presenting my model. This is a glass of water and now I will fill this tank up. Slowly I will pour the water in the tank. Now the tank is at full capacity and as you can see the LED starts glowing, indicating that the water level has risen to the maximum capacity.
Now we are going to discuss what do we understand by space debris. Space debris is commonly referred to as space junk. It is collected due to the satellites which are sent in space and are destroyed. The leftovers of these satellites is called as space debris. The two types of space debris includes natural space debris. It consists of small pieces of cometary and asteroidal material called meteoroids, which we commonly known as meteors. Artificial space debris. It consists of any non-functional man-made object in space, usually orbiting Earth. The first space debris formation was started with the launch of Sputnik 1 on 4th October 1947. Speed of debris. Essentially, orbital debris can reach speeds of up to 56,000 km per hour due to the Earth's rotation. At this speed, even a centimeter-sized particle of debris can damage an operational spacecraft. In low Earth orbits below 2,000 km, orbital debris circle the Earth at speeds of 7 to 8 meters per second. Interesting facts about space debris. There are over 128 million particles of space debris that are less than 1 centimeter in size. The speed of a space junk could reach up to 17,500 miles per hour. The largest space junk weighs 77 tons. On an average, one piece of space junk has fallen back into Earth's atmosphere every day for last 50 years. The Kessler syndrome. The Kessler syndrome, also called Kessler effect, was proposed by NASA scientist Donald J. Kessler in 1978. It is a theoretical scenario in which the density of objects in low Earth orbit due to space pollution is high enough that collisions between objects could cause a cascade in which collisions generate space debris. According to the scientists, this space debris will increase and thus its speed will also increase when it evolves around the Earth. Worst incidents caused by space debris: collision between Cosmos 2251 and Iridium 33. This was the first major collision between two satellites that occurred on 10th Feb 2009. Cosmos 2251 was an invented Russian military satellite that collided with Iridium 33 at a speed of 26,000 miles per hour above Siberia. Columbia Space Shuttle disaster. On 1st Feb 2003, the Columbia Space Shuttle disintegrated while re-entering the Earth. A piece broke off from the space shuttle external tank, leading to penetration of hot atmospheric gases. This made the space shuttle unstable and it exploded. Skylab's collapse. When Skylab enters the Earth's atmosphere on 11 July 1979, it scattered into debris and frightened the peoples of Western Australia. Though the most of the debris fell into the Indian Ocean, but still parts of space station littered over Western Australia. First human injury by space debris. Wu Ji became the first ever person to suffer direct contact with a space debris. The 6-year-old suffered a fractured toe and swelling on his forehead because of the aluminium block weighing about 10 kg. How to remove debris? Snagging and moving space junk. This would seek out satellite debris in a polar orbit at an altitude between
800 and 1000 kilometers. This will be using several kinds of capture mechanisms to pick up the debris such as nets, harpoons, robotic arms and tentacles. Solar sail. A British proposal would use the drag of a solar sail to push orbiting space debris down to lower limits. Laser technology. The UN has explained a way either deorbit a satellite or completely destroy it. A satellite endowed with a powerful laser has to be sent to space, and then by focusing the laser on the UN operational satellites. Magnets. We can install powerful magnets on Earth, and with the help of them, satellites can be attracted towards the atmosphere where they would burn completely. The Remote Debris Mission. A satellite was transported to ISS via SpaceX CRS-14 launched in early April 2018. The satellite was designed, built and manufactured by a consortium of space companies and research institutions led by Surrey Space Centre at University of Surrey, United Kingdom. The project is co-founded by European Commission. As you can see, this is the European Remote Debris spacecraft, which was launched by Surrey Space Centre from ISS. The test debris machine is also there, and the net and harpoons which will be used to collect the space debris and the drag sail. Now we are going to talk about how India is tracking debris. A multi-object tracking radar developed by the Satish Dhawan Space Center allows ISRO to track 10 objects simultaneously. It tracks India's space assets and space debris, for which India was solely dependent on data provided by the US Space Agency NASA till early 2016. ISRO is also part of the Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee, an international government forum that coordinates global efforts to reduce man-made and natural space debris by sharing research and identifying debris mitigation options.
Today I have made a project on the wastewater filtration. First, the wastewater from the factories and the apartments are stored in a wastewater tank, after which it is sent for the purification in the screening tank, in which the solid waste products are removed from it, and after the removal of solid products it is sent further into the grid chamber for the removal and filtration of sand. After the sand is filtered, it is sent into the primary steering tank, in which the sludge is removed. And after the sludge is removed, it is sent into the accretion tank, which helps in the removal of bacteria from the wastewater, and then it is used for watering the plants and other households. Let me show the process. If we pour the water in the screening tank, you can see. If we pour, then after the screening tank processes the water, it goes into the grid chamber, from which it goes into the primary steering tank by purifying water step by step, and after purifying in the primary steering tank, it goes into the accretion tank. You can see, and after it is purified in the accretion tank, it is sent for gardening and the other household course. You can see. First it is sent in the screening tank, then it goes into the grid chamber, then in the primary steering tank, and then in the accretion tank. Now you can see it is going for the gardening purposes. Thank you.
So, how was that joyous ride? I hope with those online classes you enjoyed these online presentations. So, this process of learning will be continued throughout this whole exhibition, so make sure to keep watching. And this was all for Department of Physics. This was me, Vishesh Varshney, signing off with my co-host Rashi. Thank you.